All right, YouTube says we're live, so taking a beat. Welcome to Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom. I am your host, Greg Gabb. The gang is all here. We got Lenny and Don and Courtney and Jeremy and Leff and Garrett and Garth and John and Mike and John and John and John and John and Jim and John and John. Let's talk about slot cars. Does anybody have a show and or tell they want to show and or talk about? Now's the time to wave your real hand or raise your virtual hand, and I'll be sure and call on you.
Sorry to interject, but I do believe we have a new participant. So I just thought I'd mention.
I don't know. He went and showed his face already. So, hey Ross, have you been on here before? I don't think you have.
No, I haven't been. I've been wanting to, but we have an event at church every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time, which is right now. But we're off for, I think, a couple of weeks, and then unfortunately it starts back. But what I'm going to try and do is get with you on that earlier time, which I think is, that would be
3 hours ago, or no, 5 hours ago.
Yeah, I'll try to get with you then.
2 o'clock.
Okay, cool. See you next time.
Where are you from? Give us the where you're from, what you do, and
It's GA.
You got time for it?
Okay. Well, I grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I lived there all my life until.
I live.
Huh?
I'm in Chattanooga.
Are you really? Well, I grew up in East Ridge. I grew up in East Ridge.
I live in Saudi Daisy.
Okay. Well, my wife is from Saudi Daisy. Yeah. But I stayed there until I retired 7 years ago. And then I moved down here to Dallas, which is about 20 miles northwest of Atlanta, because my daughters are here. So that's the name of that town. And then down here we had Atlanta Slot Car Raceway, which was about 30 minutes from my house. The space it was in, I raced there for 4 years. The space that was in, the guy that owned it is going to tear the whole facility down and put in storage buildings. So the owner had to get out. So he sold one track, the NASCAR track or the round track, to a friend, and he has put that track in Dallas, Georgia, about 10 minutes from me, and it's going to open up. The hill climb went in the dumpster, unfortunately. So, yeah.
Yeah, they thought they had a spot for it, but it didn't work out, did it?
No, TJ thought he was going to get it, and we thought he had bought it, but unfortunately it ended up in the dumpster. So we only have we call it the Circle of Death, but that's the only track we're going to have. And the raceway now will be called Epic Slot Car Raceway. Yeah.
They have a Facebook page, but they don't have anything posted on it yet, I don't think. I mean, I'm not much of an old. Go ahead.
Go to Epic Slot Car Raceway.
It's Epic in Dallas also.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that'll be their new Facebook page. And if you go to Atlanta Slot Car Raceway, they still are posted on it, I think, for a few more days before they shut it down.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming. Hope to see you next week and then every other week or whenever you can pop on. Always welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
All right. Any show and tells? All right. No show and tells. So I guess we're going. You got something, John? Oh, John waved his hand first, and then I'll get you, Mike.
Okay.
I'll cover my camera here so you can see. I picked these up. Revos, Group 2s, picked those up from a fella on Facebook out of Asheville, and got a good deal on them. Nice. And they're all in good shape. They have slot invasion flags on them. I'm sure he changed the rear tires out also. They look like they've been trued. And they're clean and really nice.
Nice. What kind of deal did you get?
All four for $130.
Oh my!
That is a good deal.
Yeah. That's nice. Very nice.
A little bit.
They look really lightly used, John.
They are, I think. He said he just didn't care for Group 2. Apparently, I don't
Oh,
know. I
wow.
don't know how it would take 4 cars to find out that you don't like it, but he did.
Yeah.
He
Well,
guts.
he probably would have. He probably would have been like, well, okay, we'll race these if the other guys in his group liked him
Right.
enough to want
Yeah.
to. But
No,
apparently
you know what?
nobody.
I think Petrucci has relatives that live near you.
He's got some of his mojo. Got some Petrucci mojo.
Are those
Might be.
older liveries? Because I wonder if he got like the first couple of liveries, I've noticed the cars were a lot louder than the more recent ones. Like I know you can adjust and play with it, but like some of them were just they didn't mesh very well. So I guess you'll find out. But I mean, if you get a bad one off the bat, and the next one you buy is a bad one off the bat, it's going to sour your interest in that going
Definitely.
forward, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the
Definitely.
gear mesh isn't very good, but the biggest source of noise on those cars is the interior. If you glue the interior in on the little pegs that it's on, it's so much quieter. It's ridiculous. You'd think it was an NSR or something. So it's not. I mean, obviously the mesh is where the vibration comes from that generates the noise. But for whatever reason, those interiors, the way that they're not very well held in, just makes a lot of noise.
Hot glue, here we come.
Hot glue, E6000, shoe goo, whatever,
Yeah.
flexible glue. Anyway, yeah, awesome deal. And are you all done then?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thanks, John. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, this thing is apart, but I can show you what it looks like anyway. One of the new slotted 2024s with the fat motor,
Mm-hmm.
and I gotta pick up 4 of them because for all 4 of us, and so that'll be my Haas one when I get the decals on. So, but that's all I got.
Where are you getting the decals from?
I don't know yet. I haven't looked. I think Atalaya makes some of the earlier Haas ones, and I'll see if that's easy enough. But I'll find this somewhere. I know MTR has them almost for sure, but they're like $20 plus shipping from God knows where. So, the other thing I have was kind of a tell. I have a sticker shock moment. I had pre-ordered the Paul Newman Datsun 510 from Slotted, and the price has gone up $15 due to tariffs. Just on the one car. So now the price of a chip plus the car is $135. So it's getting spendy.
Yikes.
Yeah, the Datsun is now the same price as Revo slots. I don't know what Revo slots will be, but we'll see.
Is Slotted importing them China to America? Or are they taking them China to Italy,
no
then back to America?
I don't know.
It makes a
It
difference.
indicates the price increase indicates that they're going from China. So
Also
your
depends
guess
on
is as
when.
good as mine. Anyway, that's all.
All righty, thank you, sir. Lenny, you had your hand up a second ago, or
Yeah, I'm having a existential crisis here, as usual.
okay. Put your hand up when you're ready. What you got, Courtney?
I do like to do a few custom liveries, and I've had these decals for a really long time. And my buddy Tony Palmer is big on 33, so I recreated this vet with the seat 7. Our local guy had a deal on the white bodies, so I picked up the white body kit for I think $14, and I had the decals a long time ago, so I did that. The other thing I wanted to share is the new guy at our raceway. I put a link in the chat if you want to pull that up, Greg. This little bitty soldering iron. It's $55. Of course, I'm going to order mine this week with Amazon Prime, but it heats up fast. It cools down just as fast. You can set the time so that if you don't use it, it cools back down. You won't burn the tips. I mean, a whole package of tips is $6 or $8. Um, Other side of it is it fits really well in the pit box. I don't have mine yet, but when I do, I'll be glad to share.
Can you just show us the back of that again? Because I saw, did it run on DC?
Yeah, no, it's a plug-in, but I believe
No,
you can get it either.
I think you might be incorrect. There, 24 volts at 4 amps. That means you couldn't power bank it, but you could make up a battery pack for that. 24 volts is a bit high, a bit strange. Nice looking unit.
He had one at the track a couple weeks ago, and we just kind of messed with it for a minute. But even on the 24 scale cars, it'll put a motor in and out relatively quick. So I thought it was cool. Of course, anything to lighten my load going to the track.
So the iron itself has some heft to it.
Not really. The tips are still relatively small.
Yeah, it's definitely a pen size.
Yeah. You get 8 tips with the machine, and that's about the biggest one on that last picture, Greg.
Yeah, I'm interested in see what the tips look like.
So anyhow, yeah, auto sleep, that's what it's called. Auto sleep. You can adjust the temp range. It's cool. It's cool, and it's small.
That's the chisel.
Is that whole long thing one piece?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that fits into that whole thing fits into the black. Yep, right there.
Yeah, but it's not just a normal soldering
Nope.
iron tip. It's this whole thing.
No, it's not. No.
Well, good thing it comes with multiple tips then.
There you go. Well, the majority of the 32 stuff is just, wires. So a pin size one is optimum.
75 watts is quite powerful. You could solder wires to the end of batteries. Ask me how I know. I used to do it. And 75 to 100 watts was recommended. I've got a 12-volt iron at 100 watts. And I don't use it anymore because the purpose for buying it is gone. But I know 75 watts could do it too. 75 watts is pretty powerful.
I finally used the little USB chargeable pen iron that I got for Christmas 7 months ago. Finally put that to use. It worked pretty good. I mean, it took, 10, 15, 20 seconds to get hot enough to melt the solder, but, just got to hold the button for a little bit and then get to work. And, it did exactly what it was meant to do. Tiny little form factor, solder wires to motors or desolder wires from motors. Great little tool.
For reference, the de facto iron at the moment for low for small, the best iron out there right now probably is called the TS100, and it's an iron on a wire, and there's no base station, but all the control is in the handle, the LCD screen in the handle, and solid iron tips for that are relatively inexpensive. I think they're about £4 or £5, maybe $6, $7 each, and they're similar. They go all the way down in the handle, but you can plug that into a battery pack. It can run on. I think it can run on a power bank as long as power bank's got PD charging protocol, which is the fast charging protocol for mobile phones. But in general terms, you plug it into a wall wart, a USB adapter with 100 watts of capability in the adapter, and that's way more than the iron needs. This is the iron that Geo uses, and he brings it to the race meetings. And my little 12-volt iron, it does the job. It takes a while to warm up, longer than I would want it to be, far longer than Geo's does. And unfortunately, my tip has been burning away because I leave it plugged in, tend to leave it plugged in and switched on. And it's come to a point now where I think the tip's burnt away to such an extent that the physical mass of the tip is no longer enough to supply enough heat to the joint when I do certain jobs. Sometimes I have to linger on there a little bit too long, a little bit longer than I want to. And so I'm in the market for an iron, and that's why it was a particular interest that you showed us that one. Thanks for the tip, Courtney. I'm going to have a little look, see if I can find that on the slow boat from China, sort of thing.
All right, thanks for sharing that. And Lenny, are you ready to give it another
Yeah.
try?
I'll give it a go. Stand by it.
All right, go.
Okay, first thing, got a bit of sad news. We lost one of our stalwart racers at Spitfire last week. Old Bert Eden passed away. He finally succumbed to his illness. He was 81 or 82, I think. But Bert was a regular at my place and a regular at Fulham Park Raceway before that, and a regular at War Raceway when it was down at Glenelg, which is south from where it is now. Yeah, so he used to turn up every week, and never a front runner, always midfielder, but very enthusiastic about it. He often used to say that he preferred the company than the racing, really. He was a top bloke, and yeah, so we lost him on the last weekend. So, yeah, so that's first bit of news. Unfortunately, very sad. Godspeed, Bert, wherever you are. Sorry. And then the weekend before that, we had the mixed spry to remember one of our other fallen friends. So there's my old mate Larry Perkins, former
Yeah.
Formula One driver, V8 supercar driver, welcoming everybody. And there's the trophies that were on offer, and the certificates for the placings in the individual races, and the perpetual trophy there. So first race was for Group C cars, and we had a contingent come up, I should say, from South City Raceways. There's 3 of them came along, always very competitive, especially Dennis. Dennis was set the pace in the Group C cars. He ran a Jaguar XJR10. There's the podium there. There's the results there. So Dennis got first. I was second, a little way behind, and Steve was right up my clacker there, trying to take second off me. Saul, who's a South City guy, and Hamish, another South City guy. Hamish was a hot favourite to win this, but he had a few problems and didn't do so well, so he finished 5th in that one. And then Paul's another South City guy, and then the rest of them are my regulars: Norm, Tim, George, Andrew, and Claude. There's the podium. So there's an XJR10 there. I ran a 962 Porsche, and Steve ran a XJR10 as well. So Dennis has got this thing very well set up. And then we went on to classic sports and GT cars, and Hamish reasserted himself into the points. So Hamish won that one from Dennis and Norm. Norm's one of my regular guys, and he did quite well with his what do you run, McLaren Elva. But yeah, then Webby, Steve, Tim, me. I had a bit of a shocker. I ran a slotted Matra, and that I had a few problems keeping it in the slot. I think I've found the problems now, and hopefully it'll go better next time we run it. Then Saul, who was right behind me, so far behind me, you could barely separate us. 001 2 of a lap. Then George, Andrew, and Claude. So there's the podium for that one. So they're all Thunder slots, McLaren, Porsche 908, and the McLaren Elva. So I don't know. These two are alongside each other, so I don't know how they managed to tell each other's car apart. But the racing was epic. They were on top of each other all through the race, Dennis and Hamish. Hamish is a young fella. He's third generation racer. And there's the results for the LMP race. So Hamish took that out. For neglected to mention that he also lowered the lap record with the McLaren in the classic sports class. It's now down to, took 0.2 of a second off the lap record, so it's down to about a 5.904 or 907 now. So, pardon me. Then we moved on to the LMP class, and Hamish won that one again from Dennis. The racing was pretty close in that one as well. They were at each other all day in these two classes. And then I managed to scrape in the third place on that one. And then Saul, Steve, Paul, Tim, George, Norm, Andrew, and his poor old Claude holding up the result. So keeping everybody off the ground. But Claude's very new. He's still learning. Very enthusiastic. Turns up for everything. So there's the podium for that. We even managed to get our Pit Popsy to turn up and select the winners. So there's Hamish's 911 GT1. Dennis's Peugeot, were they 908Xs or something?
9X8.
Sorry?
It's called a 9X8.
9X8, is it? Oh, right, thanks.
Yeah, you were quite close.
Yeah, but no cigar. And there's my aging Lila that's still managing to go around. So that was a good race. These two were very close. They weren't racing together in this one, but the results were very close in the end. And there's the points in the end. In the end, Dennis won it, believe it or not. Very consistent all day. He got a win in 2 seconds. Then Hamish had 2 wins, but he had a poor result in the Group C race. Relatively poor result in the Group C race. So he missed out by 2 points. And then I finished third, a little way behind, with a second, 7th, and a third. And Steve wasn't too far behind me. He finished in 42. He had what did he have? Third and a couple of fifths, I think. And then the rest of them there. Paul wasn't too far behind on 41. It was very close in the middle there. But we're going to look at giving making a new point spread, so make it a little bit more valuable to have a win. Because really, Hamish really deserved to win on the day, but he just had that poor run in the sports car race. So there's me collecting my trophy, trying to rock the what do you call it? The hoodie with a tie-dye set up on it, and failing miserably. There's John. That was one of Mick's teammates from back in the day. And he worked with him as well. They both worked at the GM plant in Elizabeth Holden factory. And Mick always wore high vis, so John decided to turn up in a high vis top. There's young Hamish with all his tattoos down his arm, which is the trend these days, obviously. As I said, he's a third generation racer. His grandfather I knew through motorsport photography. He was a motorsport photographer while I was a flag marshal. So, yeah. And his grandfather won a race called the Duncan 200, which was a 24-hour race where you had to try and achieve 200 real miles, which they did, I believe, back in the day, about 1960 something. And there's Dennis receiving his first place trophy. Dennis does pretty well. He's 73 and he's still right on the pace. So very, very clever bloke, knows what he's doing. And there's a couple of atmosphere shots. There's Webby, he wore a high vis, but he'd been to work that morning, so he was still dressed for work. There's Steve, Claude, young Saul from down south, Tim, Andrew G, and Hamish. Our hotshot Andrew S couldn't make it because young Andrew, as I call him, he was doing something else on the day. So he was ill. That's right. He got the flu.
So you've got 4 drivers there. Have you got two?
Yeah,
the 2 on the marshals?
Oh, we've got marshals all around. Everybody else that doesn't race marshals.
Yeah, I was worried because I thought for a moment we got a full driver lineup, but obviously
no.
Lanes.
These 3 are marshalling, or these 2 are having a chat. I don't know what they were talking about.
Yeah.
There's Dennis trying to hide. He was down the end there next to
Is
me.
that not tricky running out in front of the drivers there?
Oh, a little bit, yeah. Especially
Yeah.
when Big Steve Marshall's here, it's like a total eclipse. But
Mm.
you got to use your muscle memory to go around that bit.
Muscle memory, yeah.
There's John, there's Dennis again, doing the
Oh yeah.
me, Tim, Hamish, and Norm. He finished third in the GT in the sports and GT class. I think we're racing LMPs at that point, so that's what it looks like. And there's Hamish, no, Saul and Andrew G again, and Steve. You can see why he's causes a total eclipse when he walks through here, through the cleavage as we call it. And there's Claude again. I don't know what they were talking about. Probably bagging me. And there's the group afterwards. We had a bit of an afternoon tea afterwards. Bought some pizzas and some other things. My wife once again put on a great spread. Heather, thank you very much to her. She put on sandwiches for lunch and then organised the afternoon tea as well. Sorry, I just have a cough. This young fella here, George, is legally blind. He still races and he's able to hold his own. So yeah, he comes every week. His mum drops him off, so it's really good. And then we went on to the following Tuesday. We had our cheap station round again, the point series round, where everybody allegedly gets serious, but it doesn't seem to change much. We just add points to the race.
Oh, Wallace.
So we ran Polycars, Polycar F1, Modern GT again, and DTMs. These are my cars. I just put them out so the guys have got some idea what we're racing, because half the time they don't know what the classes are. They don't understand what's in them. First up was the slotted DTM, and Andrew made a miraculous recovery for Tuesday night. Andrew S., young Andrew. And he won the DTM with, what did he run this time? An Alfa Romeo, I think. He just likes running cars that no one else will run, just to prove that they're competitive. But I think it's more him than the car. And Ian, who was missing also from the weekend, he's one of our top drivers. He finished second. I scraped home in third, some distance behind. Then Jeff, Norm, Tim, Steve, Tim, George, Andrew, and Claude. Poor old Claude. So there's the podium for that. So there's Andrew's Alfa Romeo, Ian's Calibra, and my Calibra. That one's one of the first of the DTMs that ever came out. I don't know how old that would be now. It must be getting on for 10 years old, that car. And then we ran Polycars, and Andrew won that again. So even though he was away for the 500, the normal services have been resumed. So Andrew won the Polycar race from me, and then Jeff, Steve, Andrew, Norm, Tim, Claude, George, Claude, and Ian. Ian didn't have a very good run in that one. I think he stripped a gear or something in the last heat. And there's the podium. Might look a bit strange with two same car, but Jeff borrowed Andrew's car. His car, I don't think he's got one yet. He's still working on that, so he borrowed Andrew's car. And so I had to do a very poor Photoshop. So there's Andrew's Ferrari, my Ferrari, too slack to take the sticker off it, the lane colour off it. And then there's Andrew's car again, but driven by Jeff. So that was quite a close race between me and Andrew. I was very pleased with the way my Ferrari went. And then we went on the Modern GT. And Ian picked up the win there from me. And then Norm got another podium. So he's had a pretty good week. Then Steve, Andrew S had a bad run. He had some mechanical issues with his, I think he was running a Mercedes SLS. Then Jeff, Tim, George, and Claude once again. There's the winners. That Ian drove that car, but that's one of Jeff's cars. So he borrowed one of Jeff's cars, and that thing is an absolute projectile. I don't know how he gets that thing to go so fast. So he actually we ran Modern GT again on Tuesday night, and he won the race with the same car. Jeff did, the owner. There's my C7R and then Norm's C8R. So that's it for me. So I'll get out your way. Oh, hang on, I've got some videos if you want to watch them.
I want to send me a link so that I can load them up. They seem to work best.
Okay. Oh, yeah, all right, I'll do that. I'll send them to you if you like.
Okay, well, we'll swing back around to that once I get the links and load them up. I'll just do a quickie about Monday night.
Yeah.
Try to make it quick. I was not really feeling it, so basically, as soon as my racing was done, I just hopped in my car and went home. But there was a few funny stories. I'll complain first. This is a wood track where the owner consistently, reliably, every brand new car puts silicone tires on his cars. We never race with silicone tires, but we almost always race IROC cars that are his. So we get there and we practice on whatever tires we're running, which is usually something highly grippy, very soft rubber. And we practice on that, and the track gets cleaned and the tires, kind of get the track warmed up, so to speak. And then we run IROC with his silicone tired cars. And then we try to race again with the cars with the rubber tires. Anybody who's ever done that knows why I would complain about that. But that's the end of my complaint. Funny story, when I got there, I was just kind of walking around, and I look over, and he's got, bunches of cars all over the place. And I notice he has the MR slot car Corvette, the white one with the blue stripes. I'm like, hey, cool, how can you not have opened this already? It was still in the shrink wrap. I'm like, dude, you have this car, friggin' put it on the track and, see it. And he says, I don't remember ordering it. Basically, it came in the mail. He completely forgot he ever ordered it. It came in the mail, and he's like, what in the world? How did this? So he had to look back through his credit card charges to find a charge from the business that he got it from. Basically, what seems to have happened, he still doesn't remember it, but what seems to have happened is as soon as the pre-order for those cars went out on multiple dealer websites, he happened to go to Slot Car Corner and put in a pre-order for that car and promptly forgot completely about it. And then it comes, and he didn't remember it, and he's surprised that he ordered it, because he says it's not really his kind of car. It's not, he's got all kinds of cars, but for whatever reason, he thinks this car is not one that he normally would have just bought on the spot pre-order like that. This car happened to be sitting on a box of other cars with a shelf of Ninco classics full of Corvette classics. And I'm like, what? How is this different? But he says, for whatever reason, anyways, he didn't want the car. He never opened it, and he's basically was selling it at a discount to whoever wanted it. I would have bought it, except it wasn't blue and yellow, and we're not running a MR slot car classics class yet, so I had no reason to buy it. I'm sure somebody else picked it up. That was the funny story. The final story is kind of hope story, I guess. One of the guys brought his son, who's like 8 or 9. I don't remember what his actual age is, but he's pre-puberty, so tweenish age, and he's not a terrible driver, but he's used to his home track. He's got this Electric Sport at home that he races on. And he does race non-mag on that track, but of course it's still a different kind of track. You still get a little bit of magnetic help from the motor, but this was a wood track, so he had no help whatsoever. He's come to our races in the past, but most of the time he just runs IROC, and then he ends up sitting and playing on his phone or video game thing for the rest of the night. But this time he decided to participate. He's going to do his absolute best not to be a rolling wall or accidentally take anybody out. And he did a darn good job, honestly. I think other guys took other guys out more than he did. All of his crashes were basically all by himself. You know, when the guys came around behind him, he more or less let them go. But it's nice to see him willing to participate with the big kids, right? Because we don't do skill breakdowns or anything like that. Everybody's just in there together. And he was all the guys were very encouraging. You know, you're doing a great job. You know, don't worry about it. You know, everybody starts somewhere. But one of the guys wasn't all that much better than him, anyways. But yeah, it was a fun night. That's all that matters. You know, hanging out with the guys, like Alan said. And that was the end of it. Before we switch over to Mike, I wanted to mention that John D on the YouTubes pointed out that the slot at Paul Newman Datsun down under was still more expensive, and they don't have any tariffs. So I'm wondering if that was more expensive, because I know Maurizio is not about breaking any, burning bridges. So he would have gotten the necessary licensing to do that car. And I remember there was a pretty big delay because it was ready to go for a long time. RevoSlot did their thing, and Maurizio's just kind of wringing his hand.
I think Maurizio's deal was with Rock Racing Enterprises, who was the livery that he had first. I don't think it was with the 510s. I don't know about the other one.
Okay, so it's conjecture, but
as is the tariff thing. I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not saying that tariffs didn't play a part, just that apparently that's not the only thing that's making that car more expensive. So
yeah, well, I figured there would be some increase, but I looked at it as compared to the other Datsun, and it's $15 more than it was before. So, it's makes me pause a little bit, especially when some of them, with the chips and everything, it gets pretty spendy. So
for sure, and it depends on when they actually make landfall, as to what.
True.
Right. Anyway, that was it. What you got, Mike?
Well, first off, I commiserate because I ordered the Corvette at Electric Dreams, and that's why I have two of them, because I forgot that I ordered it. So
I wouldn't be surprised if most of us I have done that same thing. So just with a different car. So it's like I'm sure most of us have done that kind of thing. At some point.
I really need to, whenever I pre-order one, I need to mark it down so I remember which ones and don't reorder them and end up with two. The nice thing is the LEB gives you a heads up beforehand before they send it. Electric Dreams just send it out. And I went, oh shit. So at any rate, I got some stuff to share from this weekend, or this Monday rather. If it will go up. Yes, it finally did. Okay, there. And there. Okay, let's go back. Oh, it didn't hit the second one. Anyway, we had two races. This is from the second race, but I'll go through the first race that we had was Scale Electric GT3s, and I had the new Mustang GT3 from Scale Electric, which I hurriedly prepared, even though I've had it for a while. It took a lot more than I expected to prepare it, and it was a stone. It was just really, really, really slow motored. So I qualified third, barely, and had no great expectations for the race, believe me. But the upside is that despite my hurriedness, I got it to handle really, really well. with some decent tires. And although I was getting killed on the straights with some judicious blocking and some staying in the slot quite a bit, I won the race, and I was like surprised as hell by a couple laps too. It was just like, I did do a little fuel adjustment, but I didn't want to, go crazy because I figured the motor would break in or something. But it turned out to be just about right. It was a really close race, and I did pull it out at the last part of it, and mostly from running a little bit better as far as conserving fuel than I would have normally. Even though I had it was a full throttle car, I had to keep in it in order to keep going. But I could catch most of the guys through the inside section of it, and then I'd lose probably about 6 or 7 car lengths on the straight. But if I would get into the place with the ghost cars and block them, pull out early and block them a little bit, they couldn't quite get around me in time. So it was a real touch and go situation, but I pulled it out. The second race was one of the oddest and most competitive races we've had in a long time. Shiggy and I were duking it out the entire race. It was just really hammer and tong. We were on each other, and one of us would fall out the other one. And these were Polycar F1s, the classic F1s. So they're pretty even. Although the Lotus 72 that Shiggy had was the fastest by about 2.5 tenths. So I had a pedal mine in order to keep up with him. But I was managing it. I could pull him on braking a lot of times. He's much more of a on the throttle guy, and to his detriment sometimes, because he uses much more fuel than I do, generally speaking. And it hurts him in the long run. At any rate, it didn't this time especially. But I was, due to a couple of punts in the last 20 laps, I had to drive quali laps in order to keep up. And so I did quali laps for the full 20 laps. And at the very end of it, both Shiggy and I had to stop for fuel, and we both left the pits at the same time. And I was, for the last 20 laps, I was on his tail like inches, just inches away. And we came around the last turn, and I hit the lane changer for the outside, because I thought, well, if I go through fast enough on the last corner, I might pull it off. Well, we were neck and neck. We were wheel and wheel going across, and we both ran out of fuel right at the end. I mean, like, it must have been like 6 inches in front of the line. And both of us were expecting the race to be done, but he took off first and went around. And I ended up, Joel just kept going, and he ended up beating me, and I ended up third as a result of it, because I was sitting in the pits waiting for my fueling to work. So it was a pretty exciting race all the way around. It was really, really fun. So we had a great time. I love those Polycar Classics. You can you put them on the shelf, you take them off, they run perfectly all the time. They are pretty evenly balanced. There's no favorites to speak of there, except with the exception of the Lotus 72. It's a little bit quicker, but just a little bit, and it's mostly motor. But if you drive them decently, they really, really work well. I like them a lot. So always have fun with them. Anyway, that's all I got, and I will take my share off. Oh, I think I might have a picture of them. Hang on.
Hey, Mike, I got a question for you about those.
Sure.
If you were gonna get just 2 of them to race against each other, and you wanted them to be even, which 2 do you think would be the most even of those
there is so little difference between them. It's luck of the draw, Garth. Get the ones that
really?
you like the looks of. Yeah.
Okay.
The two, if you look at the one in third place, that was it's the Gunston March 701. And if you look behind it, the fourth place car was a yellow 701. The times between them when I set them up, except for the Lotus, were within hundredths of a second.
Okay.
On those three cars that are second, they were within hundredths of a second as far as the times go. So I would pick one. I like the BRMs. They seem to be a little bit better handling. I don't know whether they're more compact or what the deal is. Maybe the center of gravity is a bit lower. I would stay away from the ones that have a higher airbox at the back. You look, there's some of them, some of the Lotuses, and I can't remember what the other ones, but they have a high airbox, and that raises the center of gravity somewhat. So the cars that I've got here with the low wings like that are probably the best if you want to, give it a shot. But yeah, they're great fun. I can highly recommend them. As I would the new 2024 F1s. Those are really fun. So, okay, that's all I got. I will take it down.
Okie dokie. Any other club racing anybody want to talk about?
Greg, can I just have a crack at doing those videos? I haven't sent them to you, but I'm going to try something different.
Sure, go ahead.
Give this a go. This is the LMP race, last heat of the LMP race. I'll just show this one. About a minute long. There's lots of banter going on, even though it's the last race of the day. And the white car in the middle lane, that's Dennis's car. You can see how much faster it's going than everybody else. That's the Peugeot hypercar.
Yeah.
Ah, really?
He's absolutely blitzing it. Dennis is the resident thinker of just about everything in South Australian slot car racing.
He's doing 5 laps for their 4 laps just about.
Yeah, it's pretty well. He was in the 5.9s, and middle of the others aren't our quickest guys.
Does he got the original motor in it?
Because we don't grade our people, so yeah, so that's it. So I've worked out how to play videos on here now, so that's a bonus. That's the end of it. So I'll stop the share.
And just don't forget.
Yeah, I've got it now. There was one other thing. I think I might try and share. We were talking earlier about cleaning up our workspace. We had an absolutely shocking day on Monday. It was raining sideways and the wind was blowing at a gale. So I thought, I'm not going outside. I better tidy up my workbench. So normally that's all covered in stuff. All the way through, it's covered in junk.
Yeah, I don't believe that's ever been used. I think you're lying.
Well, I sent it to I sent the photo to my missus and she didn't believe me.
Yeah.
Notice I got a light under the bench. I've put a light under there because I always drop stuff and it always goes under there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's dark, so I went and bought a LED fluoro and stuck it under there.
That's a good idea.
So I'll stop chewing now.
I think I saw Ross raise his hand.
Sorry?
Well, I think I saw Ross raise his hand a while ago.
I don't know, Ross. Did you want to say something or anything, Ross?
Well, y'all was talking about soldering irons earlier, and I built a resistance soldering type station back 2 or 3 years ago, and put it on Slot Blog. And basically, all my retro cars, that's what I use for 90% of the builds now is resistance type, and it works extremely well. That's all I was going to say.
Somebody's gonna have to, I don't know what resistance type soldering irons is, so somebody's gonna have to help me with that one. Is
Okay,
it like
well,
the kind?
you know what you do, you have a, like I said, I've got pictures on Slot Blog. If anybody wants to go there, they can see the one I built. And I've got a lot of information on it. And then it's in the on Slot Blog. It's in the scratch building section. But anyhow, basically what it is, uh, think about a weld, how you weld with a welding rod, and think about when you would stick the rod to the metal accidentally. And you know how the metal heats up and the rod heats up. Well, with resistance soldering, that's exactly what happens. You take and put your, you have a ground plate, if you want to do it that way, set your chassis on that, and you take your solder, put your solder down, flux it, and then take the probe and put the probe on top of the wire that you want soldered or the section, and you hit the foot switch, which energizes the transformer, which heats the probe tip up very hot, very quick. And the heat goes directly through where you want to solder at. And as soon as this, I mean, it's almost 2 seconds that it's done. Then you release the foot pedal and just hold the probe on there for another second or 2 or 3 seconds, let it cool down, and then you pull the probe away. So there's your solder joint. There's been commercial units made. There's a commercial unit called American Beauty. They're probably the best known. They're expensive, $500-600 for one of them. I built mine. I'm a retired electrical contractor, so I built mine, and it works absolutely beautifully. I mean, it amazes me every time I use it. I'm just tickled to death with it. But there's a lot of videos on resistance soldering on YouTube, and you know, if anybody wants to just fiddle with it someday, you might find that you'd have a lot of fun with it, and it works very well.
Do you not end up soldering the probe whilst you've kept it there until, you know, when you kept it there a few seconds after you've taken off the foot? Does it not end up soldering the probe to the job?
Well, no. Let me back up. I was given an example. What I have is a ceramic board, okay, that will withstand heat. So I put my chassis on that, and it's got places to put pins in it to hold your chassis exactly where you want it. And what you do, take a little alligator clip, just a little alligator clip, and you clip it on the chassis. That way the current is from the probe through the metal to the alligator clip. No, you can't lay it on the actual piece of metal because, like I said, it would then, more likely, you would end up with some solder on the metal plate itself. But
You're talking about a metal chassis, though, correct?
yes, brass, retro. That's mostly what I've done in FCRs.
So do you build chassis? Do you build chassis with this resistance iron?
Yes, yes, I built a number of them.
I'm on the scratch building section of Slot Blog. What should I search for or look for?
I just posted in the chat, Greg.
Okay. Awesome.
Look in the chat. I just posted it.
Yeah, if you scan down, there's a picture of mine. It's in a plastic box. If you scan down away, you'll see it. Okay, that one there is powered by two 12-volt batteries in parallel inside the box. And what you have there, you got the pedal. That's a little foot switch. And then you got the probe. There's the probe. That was an old Weller soldering iron that I cut the core out of it. And that wire, that's a speaker wire. It just goes up and attaches to the metal part of the probe. There's my ground clamp. And that right there is what I use more than anything. That's my tweezer. So basically you put your solder on wherever you want it soldered, and you take and squeeze between the metal you want soldered and the metal that's the piece you want soldered and the base metal. You just squeeze it, hit the foot switch. The current passes between the two probes on the tweezer,
Yeah.
the heat goes straight through, and then it's that's where the power's at. Then the next picture down below is a foot switch. All of these things I bought on Amazon. Those batteries came from Amazon. Now what I did, that works very well. I also went on ahead and built one using the AC transformer. It was a 480 277 to 24 12 volt transformer, and it works very, very well. It works just as good as that one does. That one there is portable. That's the reason I bought it or built it, because it was portable. I took it to the track. But here at the house, I generally just use the AC one, which is in the same size box. Well, yeah, it's in the same size box. All that stuff came from Amazon, but it's interesting. It's very interesting.
So what's on the display?
I was gonna say, what's the 6.43 represent?
That's showing the voltage that I have left in my battery pack.
Oh, okay.
That's just residual voltage.
Ross, we're gonna need video. We're gonna need video.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how to put a YouTube video on here. I'm sure a lot of people do, but if you go to YouTube and type in resistance welding, there's quite a few videos on there. The railroad people use it a lot. Railroad guys.
It reminds me of a battery soldering iron I got a long time ago that was basically contacts. So it had two separated little things to touch with, and you would touch it, and then you would push the button, and it would run the current through what the two things that it was, the two positions that it was touching. It's basically the same kind of thing, except that was designed for a much smaller application.
Yeah, this one here, this one will solder some pretty heavy pieces. So yeah, it's the same thing.
But basically, the full force of a battery behind that foot switch, you're just like hitting the switch, and then boom, all that battery power is just rushing through those probes. Yeah. Right.
You can almost say the battery's dead shorted, and you wouldn't. I mean, it's okay if you do it for you're only going to do it for 3 or 4 seconds to make the joint, and then it's over with. My AC unit, of course, you can keep that held on, but it's pulling about 50 amps through there when it's doing that. And the probe itself is you can either use carbon probes or you can use stainless steel. Stainless steel works the best. So that's when you look at my tweezer there. That is a stainless steel probe that on the tweezer part, and it's also stainless steel in my old soldering iron. That's also stainless steel.
Yeah,
So you're not feeding solder into the joint?
I'm sorry?
You're not actually feeding solder into the joint as it's heating up. You're actually cutting a piece pre-prepared, laying it where you want it to go, and then applying the heat. Sit back, watch the solder melt, remove the probes, and the job done.
That's how it works the best. If I'm gonna solder, let's say 2 pieces of piano wire, thick piano wire together, I would clean it. I would put the flux in there. I would drop a piece of solder in there, maybe a 1/4 inch long or a 1/2 inch long. I'd put my tweezer across the 2 wires, hit the foot switch, and it's just in a matter of 2 or 3 seconds, maybe 2 seconds. It just boom, it's done. And then release the foot switch, and it cools down. It's a beautiful solder joint. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Biggest advantage is that the heat is concentrated in the very short area where you actually got the clamp and the carbon. I've got one of these I built. Russell Sheldon put me onto a directive years ago, and I built one when I was doing a lot of scratch building. And I used an scope transformer and built the rest of it myself. But because the heat is concentrated in such a small area, when you're doing brass chassis or piano wire chassis, you don't have any heat transfer, so the other bits like suspension that doesn't fall off. You can concentrate the heat within a very small area.
Exactly.
And they're great.
Yep, exactly. Oh, it works great.
Yeah.
Because it works so fast. It's not.
Yes.
It's not the area so much as the fact that it's dumping all that heat right there between the probes, just super, super fast.
Yeah.
It doesn't have time. It doesn't have time to move the heat outwards.
No.
Right.
Before, by the time the heat starts moving, you're done.
Yeah.
And it's cooling down.
my scope transformer puts out about 35 amps. So, you know, you can feel it getting hot when you're doing the joint. Yeah.
They work very nice. And like I said, American Beauty makes them. They're expensive, but they're nice, but mine works just as well. I can assure you it does. And I'm not bragging about it, but you know, my whole career has been industrial electricity. I was the company I worked for, we only done industrial work in big plants. So that's all I've ever known. And then I bought the company. So
why pay for something when you can build it?
Huh?
Yeah. Why pay for something when you can build it?
Yeah, it just takes time to build it, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is.
Yep. But I'll shut up about it. That's all I was going to say.
No, they're great.
Thanks for sharing. Floor is open. So anybody has anything, as long as it's stock car related. Take it away. Thanks for coming, Phil. How you feeling these days?
Slowly getting there, Greg. Very slowly. Yeah, it's taken a while, but I think I've got about where I've got to, and I'm just trying to control things at the moment, in and out of specialists every 3 weeks, and yeah, going reasonably well. Yeah.
Hey, you're not in a bed, so.
No, that's the biggest. I was having a competition with Dwan, see who was going to spend the most time in and out of hospital.
Yeah. Speaking of Dwan, he's got his hand up. What you got, Dwan?
Yeah, I had something else to say.
Okay.
It's not really slot car related, but I went to buy it. Someone advertised a box of filament on Marketplace a couple of weeks ago. So I went out to look at it and ended up coming home with another Prusa, box of filament, and a Pallet 3 Pro as well, all for equivalent of about $500 US. So I think I did pretty well out of that.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people won't know what a Pallet 3 is, but it's basically, it allows you to put 8 colours into a machine at one time.
I was going to say, that's the one that does 8. Yeah.
Yes, I haven't got it set up yet. I've got to get my workroom changed. But yeah, I went to buy the filament and come home with all the rest of it. It was just too good an opportunity to miss out on.
Nice.
So the Prusas are breeding here, Greg.
Yep. It's good machines.
Oh, it is. You know, a bit slow, but as someone said, more machines, you're working faster than fast machine.
Which one is it? Mark III or?
I've got 4 Mark III S's.
Nice.
Yeah. One I'm about to upgrade into a 3.5. So yeah. Yeah. But yeah, all the guys in the club keep wanting these tie grinding machines, so it keeps me going pretty well. Between that and tire scrubbers, that's your fault. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, they're great. Everyone's wrapped in them, that's for sure. Yeah. All right. Sorry, I'll let Dwan go now.
All right. Good stuff. Go ahead, Dwan.
Well, many of you guys probably know I've been a Revell enthusiast for quite a while, and Facebook started a group called the Vintage Revell Race. I can't remember what group is that. Vintage Revell race cars or race group, and in the group. A couple of things kind of popped up, and this is really something I wish John Kitt was around for, because he's such a he can pull things out of the hat from nowhere. But the first thing that came up was someone was asking for a comprehensive list of the cars that came with the different raceway tracks and sets, and so I reached out to one of my guys with tremendous resources, and he came up with this particular list right here. It's probably kind of fuzzy, but anyway, it shows the variety of different Revell racetrack sets and the typical cars that came with each set. So, you know, it's the Europa set came with a blue Mercedes-Benz and a silver Aston Martin DD5 and all other different sets like that. So that was an answer that I was able to compile and put together for the group and submitted it. And a fallout from that came just shortly after that. This gentleman here, he posed a different question. And you can still see this, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Okay, so his question
After
was,
Martin.
what different, you can see what's going on here, right? I don't know if you can see it. These are the same cars and different varieties of the same cars. The Ferraris, the Mercedes, the Corvettes, etc. And his question was, how many different variety of cars were there, both in the race sets, the ready to runs, as well as the model kit sets and things like that? So if there's a compiled list of the different Corvettes that came, so like one of these came with one of the race sets, one of them came with is a ready to run, etc. So that was his particular question, was how many different versions of the same car were released, again, using race sets, ready to run individual cars, as well as model kit sets that people converted to cars.
Fortunately, John has
So
not been able to stay on the chat.
I
Otherwise,
know,
he'd have chimed in
but
about 5 minutes ago.
exactly. I figured this would have been the perfect one for him to pose a question to, because
Uh-huh.
he probably pull out about half a dozen of these things just under his desk. But anyway, but I did tell him I would reach out to my different resources and see if I could compile something for the group. But just wanted to just kind of share that with you guys.
You know, there's something really quite nice about a car in a single color with a number on a roundel, and that's pretty much it.
Yep. Anyway, so
E-
our group is
Easy
grown.
liveries.
It's hard to, yeah, there's fancy liveries, exactly. But
That yellow one could have done with a
I
different
was
color interior in it, but
really
that's it.
surprised to see how the group has grown to over 500 members. And I didn't think there'd be that many people in the world that would be interested in vintage Revell slot cars.
There's a lot of people in the world.
All right. Well, anyway, I'm posing that, then maybe we can get some feedback or some input from people out in the world there that might have some type of list to help compile on the different versions or variations, rather, of the different cars. So that's what I had.
The name of the group, just for people who are looking, the name of the group is Vintage, in all caps, Revell Slot Car Group. And I'll go ahead
I guess I should know that.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the chat and in on the YouTube chat. So if anybody is a vintage Revell fan and has wants to share with other Revell fans, there's a group for you. And if you know stuff about these cars, you can go on there and tell people. Cool.
All right, and you can stop my share. Somehow I can't seem to find the stop share button. I'm looking all over these screens. Thanks.
I got you.
Yeah.
All righty. What you got, Mike?
I wanted to catch up a little bit. You talked about the Corvette earlier. I remember remarking it was quite slow. I put a 9-tooth pinion on it, and it made it a lot better. Mostly comparable to the Nincos that I've got.
What did it have on it?
What was the original?
It had a 10. It had 10-tooth pinion on it. The crown gear is really difficult to change with a larger gear because there's very little room in it. So I couldn't put a larger gear on it. But the 9-tooth pinion did the trick. And I also confirmed that the motor that's in that one is stuffed because the other one runs quicker. The second one runs quicker. So, but I just wanted to catch up on that a little bit. Also, talking about the race that I had, unfortunately, I had a malfunction with my iPad and the video is not able to be, it's all blurry. So I was really disappointed because it was really a close race and there was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate, but we'll have another one that way, I'm sure.
So did that 9-tooth pinion pretty much make that car on par with the other one, or is it?
Pretty much, yeah. It's a little bit slower, but you know, it's not anything to write home about. The second one, I haven't fully finished it. I haven't put the 9-tooth pinion on that one. I think that will definitely make that one within the realm of the other cars. But
how far off is that one? I mean, they're both slower than the other cars enough that you want to change
they're
pinions
maybe
on
a
both?
tenth slower than the other cars that I had with me driving. You know, so something like that.
Mike,
But it made the car a lot better handling and much quicker down the straight.
Mike, how do they compare dimensionally, like wheelbase with the Nincos, for instance?
You know, I haven't looked. I really haven't looked, but I can. I will take a peek at that. Another thing I wanted to show you is that for those that run oxygen and stuff, if you look at I've got this straightened out now, you can see the nice position of the chip right in front of the motor on that one. Now that I've got it in there. And what I did is I teardropped the front section there. You can see where I've hollowed it out quite a bit so that it gets plenty of light showing through there at that point. So, and it seems to work really well. But
I find
the way the chip goes in, this is really nice.
Okay. I find a hole of about 6mm diameter is more than adequate.
Well, the chip in this one, I don't know if you can see it. If you look, you can see it's quite high in there.
Yeah.
You know, you can see that there's the high. It's since the infrared is a cone shape.
Yeah, the beam
higher
pattern.
you get, you know, you have to make sure it's not inhibited. So that's why I did that. And with the other car that I've got, the red one, this one, it seems to work really well. So anyway, I'm pretty happy with these cars. It'll be a nice grid once I get enough cash to get them all. And they're a bargain, really. They're $60. So
Pretty good. Do those have the multiple gears like the classics
yes,
do?
yeah. If you look here, you can see.
Hold on. Oh yeah, it's got the idler thing going.
Yep, and it's got the metal shafted pinion. It's a beveled pinion, but it's metal shafted. And if you look, see that little tab at the end of the motor there? Those are shims to shim the motor in and out for the best gear mesh you get. So that usually comes with 2 shims. Both of the cars that I have, I cut it down to 1 for a better gear mesh. If you don't put any in, it's a little tight. 1 seems to work pretty well for me. So, yeah, nice smooth cars. Easy to put. Well, not easy, but fairly easy to put the chip in. You can't use the plugins because there's not enough room in the front end. But you know, if you can solder a little bit, it works okay. But
have you ever measured the weight distribution of one of those cars, Mike?
I haven't yet.
Let me get my scales.
Well, they run
I've got a scale.
They run really.
I have the technology.
You don't have to do it live, but they run really nicely, don't they? And
yeah,
I suspect. I mean, it's not just the very low light body shells.
I mean, that's going to be a pretty big part of it.
Yeah. Low CG. It's got a low CG. I mean, that motor could pull on the rails that way up, particularly.
Hello, gorgeous. How you going? Fighting fit.
Doing fine, baby. How are you?
Wait, I thought he was talking to me. Okay, fine.
No, he meant me.
62%.
Oh, okay.
A little high.
And I haven't weighted anything. I left them stock and they still handle pretty well.
And that's with the chip in there?
That's with the chip.
Wow.
You see, that's very typical of an inline car, but it depends on how long the car is.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, speaking of that, the weight distribution on the Mustang, the Scalextric Mustang that I was setting up, I had to weight the back because there was too little on it. So I had too much grip and it was tippy. So I use G25 tires, of course. That's sort of my standard go-to, especially with all the GT3 cars. Yeah, I was really surprised. I had to weight the back of the car, but it handles really well. I just put a small piece of tungsten rod in it, right in back of the motor, in between the gear and the motor. It's an inline situation, and that one has all the Scalextric car, and it worked pretty well. I've got a couple. I just got in the mail a couple of the LEB Cyclones, and I'm probably going to put one of those in and see how it goes, if it's comparable to the other ones, and test it out and see, and take the motor out and test it to see if it's actually Duff as far as
your typical problem with those narrower Scalextric type cars is CG height versus track width. The track is a little narrow for the height of the CG that they have. So the main thing you've done is not only move the weight distribution slightly rearward, but significantly lowered.
Mm-hmm.
You would have moved the CG height down. That would have been the best mod.
Yeah, it's the GT3 car is much wider than the standard Mustangs.
Oh yeah.
So that makes a difference. I'll look and see. I think it's comparable to most of my sideways cars.
Is it 63-ish?
Gotta find it first.
On the floor.
No. There it is. $63.72.
Oh, it's quite wide then. Nearly 64. Quite wide. Yeah.
And
I thought we were
that's
talking
not-
about the classic Mustang for a little while there. Not the GT3.
I got lucky.
Yeah.
I got lucky. The rear wheels were quite round. The front ones were quite wonky, but the rear ones were nice. So that was a good thing. So I managed to put the tires on and get them trued up nicely. I'm sure that had an influence on the handling of the car, but yeah, I was pretty happy with it. I was going to put a card interior in it, as is my want with my GT3 Scalextric. I sort of keep them equal that way. I'll take the driver out and do a little. I'm not as fussy as Gio is doing a Lexan back form. I could be, but it's a lot of faffing around for me. So I just put a piece of painted card with a driver in it, and that's good enough. I mean, you don't see the driver looking around, and I'm not a Concours guy, so it's not my bent. I'm more interested in the performance of it, and it worked really well. So I pulled the interior out to race it because I was in a hurry and didn't quite do it. So it'll raise the CG a little bit, but yeah, all in all, I was pretty pleased with it. There again, not pleased with the price of it for what you get.
Yeah.
But the way things are going, it's going to be in the ballpark soon.
Will that
And
also
most-
get hit with tariffs?
Well,
Will that not also jump up because of the tariffs and still be higher than the rest?
yeah. Well, I got this one before, so
Yeah.
before it seemed to have gone up or in the interim there. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's disappointing for, you know, for nothing essentially. You're not getting anything more for your money. So we'll just have to buy existing stock.
Mr. Weber, do you have a fan pointed at your microphone?
A fan?
A fan,
No.
yes, blowing air.
No, I do have an air conditioner about 6 feet away.
I wondered
you
if you
have-
had a new microphone.
Air is something is causing your microphone to make noise as if air is blowing across it, which is why I put you on mute. And you are consistently making a blowing across the microphone noise.
It's
Like
just
right
me
now.
breathing hard. Is that better?
No, it's actually worse.
Let's figure it out here.
He had an echo to his voice a little while ago that I'm not familiar with. I wondered if he was running a new mic.
How's that? I have a ceiling fan also, so,
That appears to have cured the issue.
okay, good. Now I know. Talking about
That's why
the,
that's why I put you on mute earlier, is because of that.
thank you. I couldn't remember whether I had muted myself or something else had happened, so now I know. Those little Revo Group 2s I got, the fellow used them for, I think, a Carrera digital system. And so he put the hole, you can see the hole he put in it.
They come with a hole.
I
Revo's
don't think,
been
maybe-
putting the hole in the
maybe
newer
he just enlarged it.
in the newer cars. They've been
it.
putting the hole in there. He might have opened it up. Looks like he made it larger.
Yeah, he may have enlarged it, maybe. I'm not sure which system he's using, so maybe you can tell from that position what
Did
what
Carrera
system
Digital.
he's using. Okay,
Yep, Carrera.
that was kind of interesting too.
Yeah, that's one nice thing about Revo is that they're putting the holes in there for basically Carrera is the hole is off to the side and pretty much everything else the hole is right in the middle.
Dead center, yeah, okay.
Center line. So it's nice that they've been doing that.
Now, I'm not a painting and decorating guy, but when Courtney showed that white car that he'd got the decals on earlier, I did have a thought that I didn't share, which was, isn't it peculiar that it seems to me anyway, all the manufacturers of white kit slot cars don't actually offer decals.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Any.
that would definitely be a licensing issue.
So why don't the decal manufacturers have the same issue?
'Cause they don't care. They're small potatoes. They don't have a lot. They don't have a law department.
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, if you have lawyers on staff, probably not gonna run afoul of any potential issues. Whereas, just a mom and pop,
or on retainer.
they'll wait for a season D before they they'll do what they want until they get a C and D.
Yeah,
And then,
I just found it peculiar that all the decal sets appear to be in the aftermarket rather than from any of the white kit manufacturers.
yeah.
Well, and of course, the reason I buy the white kits is because I don't have to put all the stuff in them and take it all. I don't have to take all the stuff out. I can run the Lexan. I didn't show this one yet, but this is the fantasy car,
Oh yeah,
Ferrari.
Getting your
So-
Benetton going.
Baby, you're
Mhm.
blue and yellow, and I'm Benetton. I can't shake it. I don't like it. It's not my favorite color scheme, but it's different, and it should show up good on the track.
Taste the rainbow.
There it is.
And is that for a proxy? Is that for the proxy?
Yeah, GT3. That they made that new 11 millimeter wide tire rule, and
I don't know.
so I've been
You'll have to tell
throwing
us
some
about that.
Yeah, so for the GT3 proxy, they made an 11 millimeter wide tire rule. So everybody's I'm scrambling testing tires again on what to do and where to go type of thing. So and they're not going to allow.
The rule is no wider than 11.
Yes, 11 millimeter tire width. We used to have there's no limit on it.
Yeah.
Did they say why they changed it?
Well, they said it was hard to get, but there's always a big smelly butt. CB Wheels makes a 14 mil wide, and the Vanquish tires are still available. So that I don't know why the higher ups did it. I think they're trying to slow the cars down to get everybody grouped up a little bit because the checks are killing us. So
I
and they're
don't think that will stop them.
I mean, is that what the checks are doing that is killing you? Because everybody else can do it too, right?
Right. They had some custom magnesium wheels made to fit those tires.
Wow.
And they're selling them for, I don't know, I think they're $50 a pair. Yeah. Yeah. So I do not have those. And my car's running up front. And of course, they're not going to allow the Ford GT next year either because it's not a real GT3 car. So I'm going to have a new car. And I just ordered the advanced slot too after just while we were talking. So we'll see what that turns out.
The Ford GT3 is not a GT3 car?
No, the Ford GTD or GTLM is technically not a GT3 car.
And never was.
Never was.
So there was never a GT3 Ford GT? They were all outside of GT3?
No, it was a GTLM.
GTLM
Before
and
they
GTD.
went to GT3 cars, the GT3 cars are all made by manufacturers. I mean, they're specific designs of a GT3 car that the manufacturer makes as a race car, not as a regular car that they convert to a race car.
Yeah, I guess I'm just surprised that Ford hasn't made a GT3.
They do the Mustang.
Ford GT GT3.
not the Ford GT.
Yeah, it's not. They whatever it is, they haven't. They're not allowing it next year. So I've got to come up with something new. This is the third year on the car, and of course, it's got that little 050 motor in it. So I really want to make those things work. So
what are they doing with the Corvette? Since the Corvette was really a GTLM car, and then it was converted to a GT3 car, even though it wasn't a GT3 car, it was a GTLM car. And now they do make a GT3 car. You can't tell the difference in them.
They're letting it race. The Corvette is legal. The only two they're taking out are the Black Arrow Ferrari and the Ford GT. So
And the reason for the Black Arrow?
Well, they're saying they're hard to get, which they are. But if you dig, I mean, I've got a couple. If you need one, I got a couple. And I mean, Electric Dream still has them for $100 if you want one. And
Chevrolet, I think Chevrolet spent, or whoever spent a whole lot of money changing the C8R LM car, GTLM car, to a GT3 spec.
Well, it's a whole different car, but for 1 year they were grandfathered in as a GTLM car running with GT3 cars, but they neutered the car so it was slow enough to technically race with the GT3 cars while they were building an actual GT3 car.
Yeah.
So that's why it's kind of convoluted in what's legal and what's not in slot cars.
Which they don't really sell. the GT3, right?
You can buy one, I think, if you have the connections and the money. Because they're running them all over the world. There's a bunch of privateers.
Well,
running.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they all go through Pratt and Miller, I think.
Well, GD3, you're not allowed to have a factory team. It's all got to be customer teams.
Yeah, that's smoke and mirrors.
Sorry, customer teams.
Right. So anyhow, so yes, I'm always chasing the GT3 deal, especially now with narrow tires. I've got to do something there. Oh, which brings up a good question. Does anybody or has anybody tried crewing the NSR Extremes? And if so, how have you done it? That's what I was afraid of. Crickets. And he's not even on the call.
They're not stock on any cars, are they? They're always
No.
aftermarket. Yeah. I don't think I've ever done it, but I would do the isopropyl alcohol trick for sure. That's never failed to work on any tire for me. But
they take
I've not done all
forever.
tires.
Yeah, they take forever.
Well, I mean, that's, any soft tire is going to take forever. But the alcohol.
Which tire did you say?
The NSR Extreme.
Never used them.
Well, they are qualifying tires, or they're going to ball up, or I don't know, but I think I've got some old stock lying around. I think they may have hardened up enough that where I can use them on a narrow wheel. And let's just say I'm trying it. I got projects. I got lots of projects.
You've done the isopropyl alcohol thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're
What's
using
the
the
matter?
honey.
Won't
Say what?
What was that, Wayne?
What's the matter? Will they not cut?
They just take
overheat
forever.
up,
Yeah,
really.
I've used the G&S, I've used the hoodie, I've used whatever else I have over there. And it just takes forever. And I'm trying to do them dry. So it's just real light. See, Ross, come to Cleveland and race with us.
I plan on doing that. Yeah.
You're trying to do G25s dry?
I'm sorry?
And so why are you chewing them dry?
Well, just because I've tried the alcohol, I've tried lighter fluid. Doesn't matter. I put them fan on them and true them at like 2.5 volts. So
the frustrating thing is when you chew them for about 10 minutes and they're bigger than when you started.
Say it again.
The frustrating thing is when you do G25s and chew them for about 10 minutes and you stop and they're bigger than when you started.
Yeah.
Read that?
Yeah. You have to leave them to cool, don't you? Take them off and measure them sometime later.
Using my method, I've not had a problem. They're a pain in the ass. It takes a long time, but I've not had a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem, but just my experience with G25, that's not the tire for a proxy.
It
doesn't have enough. Yeah, it doesn't have enough grip.
On a track it works on, it's unbeatable, but on some of the others, it's terrible.
Right, that's the hard part. Thus the proxy racing.
So an extreme is softer than a super, ultra. A super, then an ultra, then an extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just think that yours are old enough now that they might be. Do you usually run supers or ultras?
I usually run ultras.
Mm.
I wonder if you put them in the freezer for a while and then work them.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that you're not trying to make them cold. You're trying to cool them during the truing process through evaporation.
I was thinking making them hard in the freezer.
Yeah, but that wouldn't last long enough. You'd basically be having to take them off every minute to put them back in the freezer, and then true them for a minute, and then put them back in the freezer.
And rubber expands when you cool it. So
I don't know.
think that's
I'm gonna have to give myself a pair of extremes and give it a try because, like I said, I have not done every tire, but I haven't met a tire that doesn't work well with the isopropyl alcohol thing. And you really got to just soak them, give it a second or two of dry, and then soak them again, and just wait. Let them dig, soak them. Let them dig, soak them, because it takes longer. They need longer to cool than they do to heat up. So it's definitely they're wet more than they're dry when I do it, anyways.
Exactly. They're wet probably 80% of the time.
For sure. Yeah.
You cut like for about a second or a second and a half, and cool them for 10.
Yeah. And it doesn't seem to matter what voltage, because I did some experimenting at super slow. I mean, I didn't put a gear motor in like Ed Bianchi has done with one of his machines, but I had one of the 55T, crawler motors that I've been using for the machines at a low voltage, and that's pretty dang slow. So it's not even the speed, it's just if it's got enough pressure to cut, it's gonna generate enough frictional heat that it still needs the cooling. So you might as well just run it at 3 or 4 volts rather than 1 volt, so that it's got a little bit of speed, so that when it cuts more efficiently than it would at a lower voltage. But you still got to just friggin'
For me, at a lower voltage, it heats up
Sorry
faster.
to interrupt, but I
At a
remember
higher voltage, it doesn't heat up as quick. So I do my G25 at 7 volts.
5 to 7 with a hoodie.
Well, let me backtrack. I normally true at 4 to 5 volts for regular tires. For G25s, I go up to 7. And it seems like I can cut quicker, and it doesn't heat up because I'm cutting faster. If I go slower, the friction is longer time period, and it heats up actually quicker than when you're going faster. So that works for me.
But we're still talking about half a second versus,
yeah.
we're talking about 1.5 seconds versus 2 seconds, right? So it's still such a short amount of time that it's dry.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Alan?
Sorry, yeah. I remember Dennis Sampson talking about this some time back, and he recommended running him at high voltage, at high speed, and just touch them, just gradually bring them in slowly, just so they're barely touching.
Yeah.
But
then back it off.
What, the voltage or the tire?
No, the
pressure.
tire.
Yeah, no, he's basically it's just skimming over the wheel, right? With the drum, I'm talking about with the drum truer. And I've done that. I also add water. I just put some water on my finger and drip it on the.
I found water doesn't work because it doesn't evaporate fast enough.
No, it worked for me.
Not saying it didn't.
Yeah, the stuff that I've done, even going to 70% isopropyl alcohol instead of 91, because it's got more water in it, it doesn't evaporate as fast and it doesn't cool as quick. So I've had very good success with the 91 and not with anything else.
I've also tried the very, very light touch, very light pressure, and I still needed to do the same cooling methods. Didn't seem to affect. So basically, I got to the point where I'm just going ahead and letting the pressure be fairly high, and then just letting, just turn the pressure up. Not crazy amount, right, but enough that you can hear the motor slow down when it dries out and starts to cut, and then keep doing the alcohol, let it dry, keep doing the alcohol, and then but not changing the pressure at all, just letting the alcohol do the cooling and the lubrication. And then after like maybe 5 minutes tops, it's cut enough that the motor doesn't change very much speed when it's dry. And then I'll stop and check. And
does the isopropyl change the chemical makeup of the tire? Like when you add oil to tires, it softens them.
I would do whatever you would normally do to your tires once you're done. Like I normally go ahead and put a drop of oil on, but I don't like do a long oiling. Like I'll just add 1 drop.
You'd be excommunicated at most of the tracks around here because you're not allowed. That's frowned upon everywhere.
Yeah, but how do they know?
Yeah, well, it's so find out.
Greg, an experiment that might be worth doing. It'd be a pain in the ass to do it, but it's to change the pulley ratio and under or overdrive the drum in relation to the tire and see if that changes anything.
Yeah. That means changing pulley wheels.
If you spin the drum
yeah.
faster in relation to what it normally is, you know, whatever the ratio is, the tire to the drum, change that ratio and see if that would make it easy. But that's a lot of experimentation.
I mean, thinking about the physics of it, right? So you've got the tire rubbing against the sanding surface, right?
Right.
The sanding surface is constantly moving. So is that which speed is actually more important? Right? Is it the speed of the tire, or is it the speed of the sanding surface, or is it the combination of the two?
If I was doing the experiment, I would try to spin the drum faster than it is now in relation to the tire.
And with a sanding plate, it's all you're just. I mean,
Yeah.
the actual
The
speed.
RPM of the wheel.
I wouldn't even try to do G25s with a plate.
I do.
Me neither. I mean, I don't use that machine at all anymore. So I don't know. Urethanes, maybe
Well,
I wouldn't.
I only use the drum to roughen down to the diameter I want, and then I'll finish them off on a bit of 1200, wet and dry, with some water on it, and just run. I've got a chassis here that I plug them into that, and then run them on that, and they start to shine up after a little while. Get a nice shiny finish, and then just run 200 laps on the track. Works.
That's why everybody's different, because we're not looking for the shiny surface.
Oh, well, we are, because we were our main big
Everybody's
loss.
Yeah.
The shiny surface works for us, I tell you. You haven't got that.
But how long does it last?
Well, I've got some BRM G25s. They polish up, and they're 3 or 4 years old. I'll see if I can find one.
How long does the surface finish
But we-
last before it's gone away?
Do we know if the
That's what I'm saying.
BRM 25 is the same as
The more you
slotted
use it,
G25?
we find the more you use them, the better they get.
Yeah. I think
What about
these tracks-
BRM G25s go for, or G22s especially? Go for
Well-
E22. Sorry, go for years.
In my experience with G25s on Revo slots, it's not the same. Because the G25 BRM or Revo slot, which I'm pretty sure would be the same. I'm not positive on that, but I suspect it would be since it's the same company. They ball up terribly, much worse than slotted G25s.
Yeah. Yeah, but we found that the BRM G25 is harder to true.
Oh yeah.
A lot harder to true. But once again, you just use the 1200 wet and dry paper with some water on it, and they polish up. Most of our tracks are gloss or satin finish over here. We've got a few Ferrador tracks. It doesn't work on Ferrador, with like a micaceous type stuff with fine metal filings in it. Blackboard paint doesn't work on that. It works on the gloss and semi-gloss.
I'm gonna have to get myself some extremes just to see if I'm talking out of my ass. I'll have to double check. I might have some, but I don't think I do. I think I pretty much just run stock, maybe ultras, but definitely haven't. I don't think I've got any extremes. So.
Always chasing the deal.
For
I
sure.
don't know whether you can see that or not. That's a set of G22s. And it's probably not going to show up. Everything's coming up matte on what I can see. But
I mean, it
they're-
looks smooth. There's no grooves or anything.
no, they've been on this car for a couple of years now.
Yeah, it's a slotted Group C.
Yes, that's the old Frame A 962. Works pretty well. And there's some slotted G25s as well. On the other one, my other 962.
And you do the same thing with those, with the 1200 wet and dry.
Yeah. Yep. Then just run them. Just do laps.
So when you do your initial cut, what do you do? What's your basic method?
I just stick them on my. I rough them down very carefully with the scale auto diamond drum, high speed, just touching water. And then I put them on got a bit of 80 grit. It's getting a bit old now. Put them on a chassis and then run them up on that. At 12 volts, lots of water. Water's the trick. Just must be Adelaide water.
That's what it is.
Got to run, guys. See you next week.
Back in the 50s and 60s, none of the ships coming into Adelaide would replenish with Adelaide water. So pretty hard.
It's different water though, isn't it? Because it spins the opposite way in the drain.
Yeah, the Coriolis effect. Yeah, when you flush the
water,
flush the dunny, it spins the opposite direction. Seen that on The Simpsons.
Water
I don't think it does, but I saw that on The Simpsons one night, so it must be true.
I mean, the Coriolis effect is real, but
no. Maybe we'll have to video it one night. Someone up yours in the town.
Have you seen
flush, and I'll video my flush and see what happens.
Way off topic now, but have you seen the video like supposedly on the equator, like a dude has a bowl over here and a bowl over there, and supposedly he's walking across the equator, pouring water into the bowl, and it goes one way on one bowl and the other way on the other bowl. Like, no, just no. All right, I think we're done slot car chatting, so I'm going to end the live stream now. Everybody wave bye till next week. Bye till next week. Hitting the end button. Says it's over, but you know how it is. Give it another 10 or 15 seconds before you